That's sad. I was really upbeat for a moment. Now I'm sad. The approval numbers dive for the Prez, who's barely alive. Yeah, his favorability is down to a third while in his pants. According to a trend line average by Civics, I love their tiny car. What is this? Joe Biden's approval is now just 35%. His voters must be turning over in their graves. Because they're dead. Probably not dead. Just something to say. True, Biden's numbers are crashing like Nancy Pelosi's husband. It's so easy. Red meat. I'd gloat, but the country's doing horribly, and I live here. Biden's only above water in Hawaii, Massachusetts, and Vermont. And yes, Emily, those are still states. Even in Delaware, his approval rating is 36%. Meanwhile, according to NBC News, Biden is reportedly frustrated with his own staff and feels like he can't catch a break. Quote, he makes a clear and succinct statement only to have aides rush to explain that he actually meant something else. The so-called cleanup campaign, he has told advisors, undermines him. Well, sounds like maybe it's time for Joe to name names, if he could remember names. All this is gas prices hit a record high over the Memorial Day weekend, according to AAA, whatever that is. It's approaching an average of $5. And when Trump was president, it was $1.77 per gallon, which means, cue the applause, which means by the end of Joe's term, gas will be $800 a gallon. Just kidding. No way he makes it to the end of his term. He's going to retire early. He's retiring early. This is my prediction. So he's sad that he can't catch a break. Well, what about us? The country makes the Hunger Games look like a romantic comedy. Joe, what say you?
Hey, look. Gas prices are not that high, all right? You can't trust those guys at AAA. They're all alcoholics. That's how they get in that group. Come on. And, I'm clear and succinct. That's what Joe is. I've always been succinct. You know the difference between succinct and success? Inked. And S. Just those two sounds. So put that in your pipe and stick your wad in it.
Yes. Jamie, you get politics in Alaska, right? It's delivered there?
Yeah.
Where you live. You guys have politics? You have, like, politicians?
We just started getting politics, and we just got Miss Pac-Man.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
It's on a delay.
Is it fair to blame Biden for everything?
I mean, not everything, but, it seems to be a trend.
Yes.
You know? Did it not stick out to anybody when he said, I say this clear and succinct statement, and then the aides try to clarify? When I think Biden, I don't think clear and succinct. Mm-hmm. I think unclear and he stinks. And I think eventually, these approval ratings is ridiculous. I think eventually they'll just have the approval ratings. It'll just be a list of the people that do. They're like, oh, Jim. So gas is crazy, right? And in Alaska, we actually it's probably, I think it's $5.50. I started Ubering. I don't know if anybody around here does that, but I usually save money by Ubering as opposed to gas. And no joke, we just got Uber in Fairbanks, Alaska, a couple months ago. And true story, the first 3 times I called Uber, the same guy came. I swear to God, it was this guy, Matt, and he goes, just give me, it was one guy. He said he was making all this money because no one had caught on that you could drive Uber. It's the same guy. And then oddly enough, because this is what kind of place Alaska is, I'm a single guy, I'm divorced. None of this is jokes. I went on Tinder. There's one person on Tinder. and it's that guy who drives the Uber. In Alaska, if you go to Grindr, there'll be a lot of bears.
shocked by that joke. It's like that's actually a fact.
It is.
Not that I would know this, Kat. But I guess there's an upside to all this inflation, I suppose, right?
No.
No?
I don't think there's an upside.
No.
I think it's awful. I have a hard time not feeling kind of bad for Biden, though.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, he's never been a guy that people really took seriously. And I kind of know how that feels.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But I feel like once you make it to be the president of the United States of America, you think that people might start taking you seriously, and they still don't.
Yeah.
So it's probably never going to happen.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like he wants to be doing this, and I can't blame him because there's no way I live to be that old. But I just don't. It's hard to not feel bad for him if it didn't impact me and all of us so much, because it seems to keep getting worse.
That is true. That is true. You know, Buck, the lady who claims I don't take her seriously, I can't remember her name. The problem with the problem is that it affects everyone. Like, if it was just small things, but inflation hits everybody, and he cannot pretend that somehow that this is, like, okay or normal.
Yeah, speaking of small things, big things, when Trump said that he wanted 2 scoops of ice cream, it was like a huge issue in the White House. Remember this? Or he got 2 scoops, everyone got 1.
Right.
And then there was all the, but is that an official policy? They actually reported on that stuff. Some of the cleanup on aisle Biden is stuff like, I mean, yeah, we'll nuke China if they go after Taiwan. Like, that's a big deal. You know, that's a big problem. Like, you can't say that stuff when you're the commander-in-chief on a highly sensitive political issue.
Yeah.
So the fact that now he's walking around saying, who's correcting me? It's kind of like everybody's correcting you.
Exactly.
Because they don't all want to die.
Yes. And that's an incentive. You know. But Emily, he says he wants to speak for himself. Should he?
I mean, let him once he's left that position, because to your point, we're either left with just what he said, and that makes us either confused or dead, or we'll accept the cleanup because at least then we can sort of continue operating as a nation. Kat, please don't feel sorry for him. That's like when a serial killer gets finally arrested and prosecuted like 60 decades later or 60 years later, and everyone's like, no, he's an old man now.
Yes.
Do not feel sorry
Okay, but
for
do
him.
you think people would take me more seriously if I started going by Catherine C. Timpf?
Yes, they would, my dear.
No, I think it should be, I should flip it so it's C. Catherine Timpf. So it's C period. So you part your name on the left.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, indubitably.
I do have more initials, so.
You do, yeah. Think about that. After work, go somewhere and write it all down. Submit it. Submit it. Totally ignored your very good question, or your very good point that, like, somehow we bequeath mercy to old bad people, right? Because age makes every inmate look fatherly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
All the hair
almost-
goes
yes.
white. All right.